Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Sword Art Online 2 episode review. This one is going to be the review for episode 15, The Queen of the Lake, the first episode of the Excalibur arc, which is only 3 episodes long, but it is still an arc. You know, we get a new opening and stuff like that, but yeah, this is an interesting arc because of how it's set up. It's not just a random 3 episode kind of in-game quest that we get. They establish that this is something that began in the middle of the ALO arc. That in the books it happens right in the middle of that, but here in the anime they established that okay, we kind of skipped over this part when we were showing it in the anime. But actually, after a certain event during Lifa and Kirito's quest, they got trapped down in Jotunheim, kind of basically the underground giant dungeon underneath the World Tree. And they got out by befriending one of these kind of jellyfish, jellyfin I think they call them, and they call him Tonki, who, in response to them saving him, obviously grows his wings and flies them out. And while they're flying, basically he shows them where Excalibur is in the game. And Excalibur is also a piece of setup because obviously this is the sword that Kirito kind of summoned in the fight against Sugo. He tossed it to Sugo and kind of showed that it's not the items that make the player, it's the kind of experience, the leveling, the actual true strength, not just a really good weapon. But it just kind of comes back here showing that he really wants that weapon. It's the best sword in the game, and as a big swordsman, he wants that sword. So it's a fairly simple setup for this arc. That's just that, okay, more players are beginning to find out about Excalibur other than just Lifa and Kirito. Now it's time to actually go and try and get this thing before anyone else gets it. And that's really cool. They want to be the kind of world's first team to get the Excalibur, and they basically established it's the only one in the game, and they want to be on the cover of like MMO Weekly getting this really big quest. So it's just a kind of cool thing of just like no one's life is on the line, nothing crazy serious is going on. It's just that the group wants to come together and do something really big. If anyone plays the game Destiny, it's like a lot of players were wanting to be the world's first team to clear the latest raid. It's that sort of thing, and I just like that. It's really cool. And in general, I think that's what I like about this episode and the arc overall. It's just that we get to see the characters interact a lot. Like, we have most of our main characters here. The only one I say notable missing is Aegil, and they just explain that he's busy kind of working. But the rest of them basically just are there interacting really nicely together. You know, you can see that Kazuto's relationship with Sugaha is a lot better now. They really are brother and sister. Their kind of time together since the ALO arc has really helped them kind of grow into like a proper kind of brother-sister relationship. Obviously, you get a nice little kind of shipping scene with Kirito and Asuna, just showing that, and then just in general, like other little things like just Silica Lisbeth interaction, Lisbeth and Klein joking around a lot, and in general, Klein adds a nice dynamic to the group as well. Just being the kind of samurai guy and stuff like that. He's interesting what he adds to the group. And it's just fun because we haven't really seen much of a lot of these characters since the Sword Art Online arc, really. There's Sword Art Online Extra, of course, which was another kind of similarly styled arc to this one in that like it's a quest. This one obviously is much more in depth, but the same kind of dynamic, that this is kind of their raid group in ALO, and this is what they do. But yeah, they get going and they basically just establish that okay, Lifa and Kirito have since become really close with Tonki to the point where they can kind of summon him when they want. It's kind of part of a quest. It ends up being that they kind of did things differently than the way other people got the quest, and then they explain what exactly that's about later on. But yeah, they basically just established that most people are hearing about this quest from people getting this quest to kill a certain enemy, and if they do that, they will get another quest that will reward Excalibur. And obviously, when they all get on top of Tonki and are heading out, they basically discover all of the other players in the dungeon killing other members of Tonki's species. And then basically they come to realize that they are doing things very differently, and there's something wrong about this quest that's going on. And so we get the appearance of the kind of NPC AI character, the Queen of the Lake, who explains the situation and explains some of the, I suppose, mythology, backstory, story setup for the world of Aincrad, the world of Alfheim Online. Not Aincrad, what did they say? Alfheim Online. And it's really cool just what they explain. Like, it's all completely based around Norse mythology and stuff like that. Jotunheim, Niflheim, I think they mentioned at one point, and just, frost giants and stuff like that. It's really interesting. Hill giants. Um, it's not an incredibly story in depth. Like Aincrad, there wasn't much of a backstory for what the actual place was. We're kind of getting a little bit of that in the progressive novels right now, but for the most part, like the backstory story were kind of these worlds isn't incredibly important. But yeah, she just explains that basically the King of the Frost Giants is basically getting word out to the other players that you can get Excalibur if you kill members of Tonki's species, who are the only ones who know where actual Excalibur is. And the reward that he's offering isn't actually Excalibur, it's this other sword called Caliburn, I think they explain, and he's kind of faking it and it's not actually Excalibur. So that's an interesting setup, that he's kind of using the other fairies of the game to remove the one species that knows basically how to defeat him. And obviously the Queen of the Lake wants our group, our hero group, with Kirito, Leafa, and so on, to find Excalibur and basically return Jotunheim to the way it was, defeat the King of the Frost Giants. Fairly basic setup, but it's an interesting dynamic that they do with this, in that it's not just a simple kind of in-game quest. It's this kind of idea that the game is kind of tricking players, asking the players to think more in depth about the quest that they're put on rather than just do it. Like, there's a kill quest to kill a certain monster, but when you get there, you see this giant thing with like 4 arms and 4 swords destroying this kind of cute jellyfish-like thing. Obviously, Leafa and Kirito stood up for the jellyfish and they got a different quest, and then the other players just went ahead and helped the jellyfish to be killed and got a different quest. That's an interesting dynamic, and they played with that as well in the extra edition episode as well. The idea of like the quest was actually for the players to be the kind of villains, like go in and do what the villain wants. But to do the good way, you had to figure out that what you were doing was the wrong thing, and you actually had to protect the thing instead of handing it over to the NPC you got it from. That's a really interesting idea that they're playing with in this arc. Just so it isn't just we're playing a game. That there's something different here. That our main group has basically, their perspective on the game has always been that the way you play it represents somewhat of who you are in real life. So they're not just going ahead like, oh, kill this monster, okay, and not even thinking about it. They're making these decisions like, does it make sense? Is it the good, right thing to do to actually kill these monsters? And you can see like what it's got them. They've got the proper quest that no one else has because they cared about a monster in the game. That's a cool dynamic that they're playing with. And yeah, that's basically what the setup is. It's just like, they wanted to go in the quest for Excalibur. They thought it was going to be one thing. It turns out it's even more different. This is a really crazy quest that none of them expected to get, and the way it's happening is different than they expected in the first place. Other things to talk about, Sinon. It's really interesting getting to see her ALO avatar. She's a Catsi, and she is playing as a kind of archer as well. And I like the little scene between her and Lisbeth where they kind of established that, like, I really want to get this legendary bow, and they're just like, you've only been playing the game for 2 weeks, why are you going after a legendary weapon already? And she's just like, the range of my bow is not great, and Lisbeth kind of explains, like, no one really uses these things because they're not really amazingly well ranged. Like they're more ranged than a spear, but not as good as magic. And she's just like, not everyone like you wants to snipe things from 100 meters away, and she's just kind of like, yeah, I kind of want double that. And Elizabeth's like, oh. And I kind of like that they continue that over, that she's so used to playing GGO that she transfers over to another game to be with all her the game that all of her friends are in now, and she just wants the class, the style of play that's the most similar to GGO, the most similar to being a sniper, and that of course is an archer. And she just wants the bow that basically will allow her to be the have the highest range in the entire game. So that was pretty cool, just getting to see that she's now part of the group, and part of the team now, and they're all kind of friends. That was just a nice thing to see. And you had the joke of like Kirito messing with her tail, and you get the one little fan servicey scene, but yeah, just Kirito and Klein joking around, and that is something just with the nature of most of the characters they introduced being female. Just getting to see Kirito and Klein's interactions are really fun because it's just like it's the two of them, and then the five girls, and then Yui as well makes six. So like they're completely outnumbered, and they're all like, whenever the girls kind of gang up on them. And yeah, there were other fun things like Asuna and Lifa come back from the shops in game and have like actual baskets filled with the potions that they would all buy. Anyone who's played an RPG or MMO knows that like when you buy these potions and stuff like that, it's mainly just you buy like a hundred of them, and they're just there. There's rarely like a time where you actually see or think about how big 100 bottles of potion would actually be, but they kind of just show it here. They bring in massive baskets, and they have a table stacked up with at least 50, 60 bottles on it of different colors. So it was just a cool thing to see these little subtle things about how they prepare for a really big kind of raid like this. And in general, it's a fun arc. I'm not going to say it's the best arc because the plot to it is just Kirito wants the sword, and we're going to see a little bit about how the questing system in the game works, but it's something we haven't really got to see, so it's definitely worth spending 3 episodes on. Before we get into the kind of more important Mother Rosario arc to end this season. But yeah, that has been the review. I will be back probably. I'll probably have at least 2 more reviews. I'll probably finish off the Excalibur arc this week. Because it's only 3 episodes, I don't think I'll do a like Excalibur arc overview video, just because it is only 3 episodes, and I can do it over the course of just the review the 3 episodes over 3 days, and there's no real need for that. But yeah, I should have that this kind of arc reviewed this week, and yeah. Other than that, I'll probably finally get back to doing some Avatar kind of discussion videos. Just some crazy things happening the last few weeks have kind of messed up my video schedule, but should be getting back to normal now. So that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.